all your supplies out and you've opened up your paints and you've got water in your cups. The examples right here behind me, and I'll refer to them over the time, but these are two examples I painted with two different backgrounds as an example. I'm going to do this one, the orange salmon color first, the only one tonight, because these steps are on the back. So I'm going to follow that pretty closely for those of you that need exact, instruction. A little bit nervous about it. I want you to completely forget about all your nerves and just relax and de-stress. This is paint like no one's watching, because we really aren't watching you. So anyway, I wanted to tell you that you can change the background. You can just do a white background if you want. You can make it lighter, darker, whatever you feel comfortable. And then the flower steps will be the same. So we will go through each step together, and then you can alter it as much as you want. I will not be offended one bit. Don't stress about the color matching as much as, I'd like to get you to look exactly like mine, but I might be using a different blue, and I might be using a different yellow than you. But we'll just keep mixing until we come up with a color you like. And hey, it's gonna be a little bit different, but we're gonna work with it. It's gonna be great. Go with the first step, and that is we're gonna mix up an orange color for our background. If you wanna grab your red paint, and we're going to make a glob. Now, if you're going to make the blue background, you're going to do that right now. This is when you're going to do the blue, white, and a little yellow. And then you're just going to keep mixing until you come up with the color you like. Again, and I can't see, so I can't really help you adjust the colors. But if you want it lighter, add more white. That will definitely take care of the darker color. You'll just make it lighter. Okay? And as we go through the steps, I'll give you some tips that I know. Okay? So right now, we're going to go ahead and shake up your red. For the orange background, you're going to do a pretty good amount of red. And I'm going to try to show you the colors. So let's see, it's about, you see that good glob of red? And then shake up your yellow if you haven't done that yet. Any yellow you've got, we will come up with some kind of an orangey color. And then about the same amount of yellow, and I'm going to put it right next to it, but we're going to probably mix that together completely. We also will need just a tad of white. So shake up your white and do the same thing just to the side. We're going to mix them together, okay? Just mix, start with the yellow and add the red. All right? And you're going to mix and mix to get a pretty good pile of one color that you like for your background. Now this could be more pink. If you want it pinker, just add more red. If you want it more orange, then add more yellow, okay? And then once you get a color you like, I add a little bit of white because acrylic paint always looks different when it's wet. It dries darker. So when you think you've got that right color, just add a little white to it to help make sure that it dries the color that you think you want, okay? So just keep that in mind as you mix your colors, that it's going to dry a little darker. And if it does a little darker, does it really make that much of a difference? I don't think so. I just feel like, hey, the paintings kind of take a life of its own, and that's how it goes. You go with the flow, so don't get stressed out. Remember, we are not stressing tonight. Everybody take a deep breath. This is where you should just be like, okay, we're gonna do this and have a good time doing it, and hopefully we have a few laughs in there, and I know I will, so we'll see how it goes. All right, once we've got this pile of background color, what we're going to do is we're gonna take our large brush and use it as a pencil right now, and we're gonna draw two circles where our flowers are going to be, and we're going to draw them with this paintbrush and then paint on the outside of it. So while the background is drying, we can work on the inside of the flower for some layering, and then we will go back and work on some of the leaves on top of the dry background. Makes sense, right? So looking at your reference photo here, this is why I want you to have this paper out, because this is going to help you. This has got a couple steps in the very first one, but we're going to draw a circle. It's about 2 inches from the top and 2 inches from the side. And I'll do it first if you want to watch, but honestly you can adjust this as we go, but this is a guide for you. So a nice big circle about there. And I was kind of trying to gauge the size. It's about the size of your brush and ferrule there up to your handle. And then the second one is quite big, but it's going to overlap. So we're going to go pretty big with it. And again, if it's a smaller circle than mine, that's okay. We're going to cover as we go, and we can adjust. This is a very organic design on purpose so that we should end up with something that looks like flowers at the end of this. There's obviously no stencil here. We're freehand drawing these circles. I know you can do it. And we're gonna be just fine because it will end up looking like some kind of flower. And if it looks abstract, great. If it looks really super straight, perfect lines, great. That's gonna show your personality, and I'm not gonna fight that, and you shouldn't either. What we're gonna do is just draw with your brush again, just a little bit of a center. This is gonna be the center of your rose. And we will cover these up with plenty of layers. So go ahead and just add a little bit of color right there in the center, just to keep your eye on the bullseye there. You know where you're going, okay? And once you've done that, just take enough paint in your brush and just go for it. Spread that paint all around your background. Our biggest thing is we want to completely cover all the white. We don't want any of the white showing. We don't want to see that canvas, okay? So scrub it in if you have to, but usually you just need more paint. You don't need like sopping amount of paint because we do have to paint on this eventually, but you know, a good amount, and it's okay if you get paint on your easel. That's okay, that's what it's for. But yes, you want the background as covered as possible because then we're going to let that dry and then add all of our leaves, okay? So, and I'm not working it up and this way, you know, that's not what I'm worried about right now. This is gonna be covered, so you can be really free with this. It's gonna be a little tricky since there's no back to grab, but if you wanna just flip this over completely, you can do that just to paint your edges. You obviously don't need to paint the edges on the actual canvas because you can pop this into a frame like I said, but I mean, if you just want to lean it up on a shelf or something, you don't have to frame it really. You can lean it up on a shelf or a wall. That's what I love to see at the end. If you guys send in pictures of where you're actually going to hang it, that always makes me smile. I love that. Do not send me a picture of it in the trash or anything. I don't want to see that. Only happy faces. I don't want to see sad faces in your comments. Guess what? Now you got to flip it back over and you're going to get some paint on your hand. That's okay. Do the best you can. Touch it up where you need to. All right, so once you've done that, if you see any wet globs, go ahead and just smooth it out. Just make sure it's fully covered. And I think it is. Trying to see it head on, but all right. So my hands are completely covered in paint. I don't know if yours is. Once you've got that done, go ahead and put your big brush in the water, rinse it out real good, and then squeeze it out with a napkin and take it out, because this is pretty big. It would knock over a plastic cup if you have a plastic cup. If you have a glass jar, you'll be all right, but I mean, I always just jam it in the bottom to get it real nice and clean, and get yourself a napkin. Hopefully you have a couple of napkins and not just one. I should mention that I have my sister right here. I mean, I haven't really talked to her yet, but she's painting along with me just to make sure that I stay not super fast, and she'll tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow, really. But so if I'm talking to myself over here, that's why. But she lives 5 minutes down the road from me, and all of our kids are over there. So this is kind of nice, and we get together and just hang out. But yeah, all right, well, I think we probably all have this done, I'm gonna guess. So if you guys are gonna follow me exactly, we're gonna do a base pink, then a violet, then a lighter violet on top. Got probably still some red on our plate, and if you don't, go ahead and add some red to your plate. Okay, we're gonna make a pink. So add a little more white if you need it. I'm gonna just add to my pile. All right. And this time, hopefully you've all rinsed out it's probably a number 8 round brush. This is what we're gonna do for the rest of the painting, really. I mean, you can grab that larger brush if you want to. Feel free to do that if you like that brush stroke. I mean, you can use it, but this is the one I did for that painting there. So that's why I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna try to match it as best I can to follow these steps. All right, so this time I'm going to just make a pile of pink, and I'm going to use a good amount, not super much, but white and red make a pink. Now it's a medium pink that we're doing, so a little bit pinker than what my background is, okay? And I tend to need more paint than I think. This little brush really soaks up a lot, so if you don't want to do a lot of mixing, just make a little more than you think you need. It seems to be working for me.
I have a question.
Yep.
So you using what you used for the background to mix that?
No, just red and white to make pink.
Oh,
I know, it looks like it's me, mine, see this was my orange, or my yellow, and this was my red, and it's kind of all blended together now. So get a little pile of red and some white, and you're gonna make a pink. Thank you, Allison, for that question. All right, and so what we're going to do is they're just a series of dabs. If you take a good look at that picture, and I say dabs a lot, but this is what we're doing. You can watch me first. We're basically working in a circle, and we're gonna dab, and we're not gonna be, I'm not doing perfect shape, I'm kind of staggering. Do you see that? So I'm staggering all the way around, filling in the white, and the next couple layers will fill in this white that you see there. So don't stress about that white, it will fill up eventually. But really, if you want to make this a different colored flower, you can go ahead and do that. But they will have layers, and it will eventually be a very light flower if you look at those reference photos, okay? So we are going to get lighter and lighter. But right now, I'm just kind of established, and you can go right over those circles, those where it came. I'm going right on top. And I will lift this painting up a little closer for you guys on the camera just in case you can't see it, but I'm already out of paint. See, I thought I made enough and I didn't. And if your next color doesn't match exactly, if you're remixing, it's okay. There's a lot of shades of pink and greens and blues in here eventually, so don't stress about that. All right, and I'm just adding, see how I'm just dabbing, and you can overlap some. Okay, and I'm trying to see if I'm painting from the side, but hopefully, I'm gonna bring this all the way up here, making it pretty big. And it's okay if it's going into your background a little bit, that's all right. Now this one is going to overlap this one just a tiny bit. And if yours has a big gap here for some reason, just keep filling it in a little bit. And if your flower comes, I mean, I'm trying to leave a little bit of extra space on the side for some leaves, but if it comes off the edge, that's okay. I mean, you can have it come off. I'm trying to keep it inside this frame, but if it does come off for you, that's okay. Don't get too worked up. All right, so that's about right for this pink flower. Just trying to get a little of this white covered, okay? I can't really see. I'm gonna look at my actual camera to find out if I'm doing that right. Okay, so this is gonna be the pink flower, and this eventually will be a yellow flower, but you can leave it violet if you want once we get these violet colors going, but the darker colors that we're gonna layer in between the top layer is just gonna give it some depth. So it looks like the petals are going in and there's some deep crevices there, okay? So once you've done that, we're going to rinse out our brush and add some blue to our plate. And I need more red, so you're gonna need red and blue for the next step, but I'm gonna give you another minute to catch up. Go ahead and do that.
I'm not quite there yet.
For those of you who are already done and you keep moving on. I mean, we're at home here, so really you could paint all night long. So, but I do apparently have a time limit, so I will try to get done in 2 hours. That's the goal, but we'll see. All right, we're gonna move on to the next step, and that's we're gonna make a violet, which is kind of a purple, but it's more of a blue purple, a blue violet. In the art world, we say blue violet or red violet. So we are making a blue violet first, okay? So add a little bit of blue to your plate. You see that? It's a little glob, and if you have blue on your plate already, then great. You might need to make a little more red. I'm gonna add a little more red to my plate, which I have a little orangey plate, but I'm gonna just add a little more there. Okay, can you guys see my plate? I'm trying to make sure you see how much. Obviously, if you have other plates in the house, that might be good in case you run out of space, but we'll see. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're going to see how they wanna run together. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna mix them, and you can kind of just go right from the center and keep adding red and blue, and you'll see it's gonna turn into a dark violet. Can you see that color? It's a pretty dark purple. And remember, everybody has probably a little bit of different blue and maybe different red. So this is gonna be different, and that's okay. So just try to make a purpley shade. The next thing you're gonna do is you're gonna add a little bit of the white, and watch what happens. It just pops. Can you guys see that? the white will just open right up. And we're not going to go too light yet because our top layer is going to be even lighter with more white. So if you can make some kind of a violet, not too dark, a medium shade violet, that's what we're going for. Because we're going to try to make a dark violet for our leaves, which is that dark red and blue. But let's see if I can show that to you. Can you see that color? This one. See, it has a little bit of white in it. Woo! That's what we're going for, okay? Now, any shade of violet that you have made is going to be just fine. This is as close as I can get to the picture. So I'm going to try to stick with this picture just for your sanity. So once you've got this little pile of violet, we are going to go on this little rose first. And then we are going to add some of that violet into this one. But this is pretty wet, so we're going to let that dry for a second. We're going to work on this one. And all we're doing is the same thing. You're just going to make little dashes, and you're kind of filling in that circle spot. And all of a sudden, your center will show up. I'm making a little bit longer stroke on the outside, but you don't have to. Do you see that? And I'm going outside of that ring, and I'm going to go all the way around. Get some more paint. Make sure you have enough paint. And if this paint is thick, that's okay. It's just going to give you texture. And I'm going to go all the way up to where there's about, it's not off the page or off the canvas, but it's pretty large. And it can get larger if you let it. And this one can get even larger after we get some leaves on. We're going to put leaves on, and then we'll do that final layer. All right, so just like that. And you can fill in a couple spots here and there. And I like to have a little bit of the line go outside of the circle. So we're not doing this, right? Everybody's not super tight. Hold your brush a little bit further back. If you're loosen up a little bit. This is a loose stroke. You're just dabbing it. I mean, those that know me from the past, I'm pretty loose in my strokes. If you do this, I don't feel that's relaxing. I don't know. I do that with my watercolors though, but that's a whole different story. But for this, I just like to make it nice and loose, and I think it's fairly doable. You all can do it. I know you can. Can't wait to see your ending photos. They always will look different, and definitely with all these shades of colors, I know it's going to be pretty wild at the end. So the next thing we're doing is this same color but with more white, and I'm already out of white, so get some more white on your plate if you need it. I'm putting it back in the same pile. And I'm just going to make a little bit lighter violet, so more white to that same pile. You guys see what I'm doing? Just more white. Keep mixing it until it's just a lighter shade of violet, and all you're doing is adding white to make it lighter. And I'm going to make a little bit more than I need because I have a feeling I'm going to need more. All right, so there we have our lighter color. And now I'm going to go to the pink flower again because it's pretty dry. Hopefully yours is kind of dry. If it's not all the way dry, it's okay. We're going to keep going anyway. It's going to blend a little bit. I'm just going to do some random strokes. Cover up some of the white that you see. Just hit some of those because we still have another layer to go to cover up all that white. And I'm going around. Do you see I'm not doing this? I'm not doing perfect little lines. But if you're doing that, that's okay. But I'm just showing you how I designed it for this picture. It's like this. So I'm kind of staggering like bricks. I guess like a brick wall. Now you're all masons tonight, okay? So you're going to do a little brick laying. We're going to do a little floral arranging. We got a little of everything tonight. Definitely color mixing. All right, so I'm just staggering that around, covering up some white spots as I go. All right, hopefully you've done that. I'm trying to see if mine's all up, but I can't really tell. I'm painting from the side, so. Up those white spots a little bit in there. You might need to make sure you have enough paint on you. That's probably the biggest thing. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush, otherwise you're not going to get any coverage. And this brush likes to soak up a lot of paint. It's pretty wild. So also, you see there's quite a bit of the background peeking through, so treat that like white showing through. Just going to cover up a little bit. At the end of it, I still have some of that background showing through, and I liked that. But if you want it completely covered, then go ahead and get to work, because you'll just have to do it now. It's with the layers is what you're gonna cover it up with. All right, so just a few strokes in there. We still have another layer, but we're gonna let that dry and start working on some of the leaves. All right, once you've done this, we're gonna wash out our brush, okay? So go ahead and give it a good rinse, and then squeeze it out with a napkin again. I'm going to move on to step 2. Hey, we got to step 2. The rest of these are gonna kind of flow together, but you've warmed up. I think you're feeling good. Now we're gonna try doing some greens, and greens can be tricky to mix, especially with a bunch of different blues and a bunch of different yellows out there. So hang in there, just mix a green until you get something that you like. Don't add white just yet to any of your mixes, because it can kind of get a little chalky. If you want to lighten up a green, add a little more yellow to your blue. Obviously we're going to do blue and yellow to make our green. So whatever half and half mixture that we make with your blue and yellow will be this first color. Go, now you've washed and you've dried your brush. It's pretty dry again, right? Hopefully. Now we're gonna start the same thing I did for the red and the blue, I'm gonna do for the yellow and the blue. I'm just gonna start mixing right in between the two. You see how I'm doing that? See that? The more blue, the darker the green. The more yellow, the brighter the green. So try mixing that together and get to a green, a medium green shade that you like. These are the primary colors, so we were having a discussion before this. I'm like, there's a lot of different shades out there, and so any little shift in the warm or the cool color, it makes quite a difference. And that's a whole class on color theory, which we're not gonna do tonight. So we're just gonna do blue and yellow right now, whatever you've got. All right, so here we go. Do you see it? Mine's a pretty good army green. That's what mine came out, which will be fine. And then we'll lighten it and add a little more yellow. It'll be, these are the base colors. All right, so if you want to hold this while we do it, you can, because these are going to show you exactly where to put these leaves. Okay, and I'm going to try to follow this. Now, obviously, I can't see what you're doing, so you can do whatever you want. You can put them anywhere you want, and that's fine. Go for it. I'm just going to try to follow this as best I can, okay? So here we go. My brush is really full of paint. I don't know if this is focusing on that or not, but it's a good amount, because I'm just gonna lay this right on. And if you wanna watch me first and then do it, I'll give you time, okay? I'm gonna start right here, because we will have another layer over top of that. So it will fill up the base of the leaf, so we don't say, where's this leaf coming from? It's not just gonna be sticking there. So this one, I'm gonna go straight up like this. And then I'm gonna pull away at the top. I'm gonna try to make this a point, and then I'm gonna make the bottom here a little bit thicker. So think of like a blade of grass or a palm frond, or, yeah, that's about it. A palm frond or a blade of grass. Think of that. And just lay that in right there. And I'm gonna do the second one, and then I'll stop for a second. Same thing, right? You didn't go straight. I went down a little bit lower here, and then I went thicker here. You see that? If it's not exactly the same as mine, it is okay. And this isn't even gonna be the same as mine, my original, but we're gonna do the best we can to make it similar, and if not, it's okay. All right, so hopefully you guys have something like that. Pull it right off. You see that? It's sticking off the canvas. Gonna go start here and kind of go right off the page. And it's thinner on the outside, and you can work this to make it even more of a point if you want. But this brush is kind of, it doesn't hold the point as well as I'd like, so that's why I say stop where, because see how I just have to add some more paint. But don't get too fussy about that. You're not gonna really look at that when you look at your end result. We're gonna add a bunch of different dabs and stuff, so. Can you see that? See you trying to reach. My sister's trying to see, I'm like, my back is to her. All right. And we're gonna keep working along here. And I'm just following this the best I can, and I'm gonna go right off the page again, which isn't a page, it's a canvas. Hopefully you get that. And I'm gonna do another one. Now, when you're here at the bottom, this is all nice and dry, so feel free to pick it up. Whoop, pick it up. Got little levels. And I'm looking at my picture, and it looks like I went off to here, so I'm just gonna add another one there. Okay, and I'm holding this painting up, Is that helpful to be a little closer? And we're just gonna keep working around. I will stop when this is all done. You guys can catch up. I'm gonna go down here. I'm just going right off the canvas. I don't know if it's helpful to hold it up to you or not, and then this one is gonna go right off the side. Whoop. Okay, so I didn't mix my yellow all the way, but guess what? It's okay. You see that little streak of yellow? I like it. Just going up, just working it around. I'm just trying to look at my picture and I'm gonna go off the side here. Make a little thicker there. Don't stress about these. These are your base leaves. When it's our final strokes, I'll let you know so you can get nervous then, but not yet. These will be most likely covered up. So do your best. Take another drink. Right up the top here. And one more up here. Now you can put as many of these as you want. If you love this color, just keep going if you want. I honestly will not mind. All right, so I'm gonna stop there because I literally am following this to the T. So if you guys are following with me, that's all I did. Just try to place it the best way, and if it's a little off, that's totally fine. Are you guys hanging in there? I don't know when to slow down or speed up or take a drink, I guess.
Are we cleaning our brushes out after this?
Nope, we're gonna keep our brushes. We're actually gonna add a little white to that same color and a little yellow to that color. So our next step is just lightening that green that we have on our brush already. So no need to wash. We're gonna lighten up a little bit, add a little yellow to it, and a little white. Can you guys see that? Now let's get into some interesting green colors. That's the next one. Anything lighter than what you have is perfect. We're just gonna give it a little dimension by adding a couple different color layers in there. Because then we will add some more of the little, if you look at the finished product, there's some little leaves in there. That's going on top of these. So you can cover up any mistakes at this point still. So don't, what is it, my friend? Don't stress, relax. Okay, can we move on? Everyone take a breath and a thumbs up. Okay, good, let's do this. All right, again, I'm just following along. Now, we're on step 3, everybody. We did it. Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at these couple colors here. Do you see? I've even added some of these little specks in here. But we're gonna focus on these. You can watch me first. And this one was a little awkward, but I'm gonna do it the same and just kind of do and then press down. Okay, so I started out lightly and then press down all the way to get it nice and fat. Did you see how I did that? This brush is so full of paint, which is fine. Just try to get somewhat of a point. And I think I went right here and then press down. Do you guys see that? Let me do it close for you. I think you guys get the idea. Without trying to do it like this, all you have to do is take your green paint. All right, I'll just go right on top. So barely touch it. You see it's lightly touching, and then I pressed all the way down to get that thick paint on there. Did you see that? Hopefully you saw that and it's not too blurry. I don't know, maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't, but whatever you're doing is good. All right, let's see. I'm going to continue on around these and give just a little bit of this light color. I'm going to add one here. You see that little extra little oomph there? Kind of wakens these leaves up a little bit. Let's see. Let's put one here. Y'all see that? Hopefully I'm not losing you all. I think that whatever you're doing at this stage is fine, is really the name of the game here. We're not doing the dots yet. We're just doing a couple of these stripes. I'm gonna add one, let's see. I'm trying to see where I put them. I'm gonna add another one right here. And it's thicker at the base towards the flower. And mine's not even a perfect edge. You see, I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a little bit of a broken stroke. I'm okay with that. But if you want to do this and fill in, I'm not watching you. But I'm Node. I remember you. All right, so keep going.
You can sense them.
I sense it. I kind of feel what you're doing right now. I remember you, a lot of you, let's just say. A little detail oriented, are ya? Let's see. Okay, and we'll add just a couple right here. Let's do this. And I'll add one. Oh, I'm trying to remember what I did. It's kind of hard to see. Just add one there. Okay? And now we're going to add a few little dotted leaves. I guess they're kind of like, think like an ivy type or
Fern?
I don't know, it could be a fern. It could be whatever you want. This is an impressionistic flower, as you can see. I don't know that many roses that look like this, but this is very free. This is why I did it, just so that you don't have to worry about what you're doing exactly. It's just
tropical, so I think of hibiscus.
It could be a hibiscus or a carnation or a, yeah. Whatever you want it to be. All right, so now if you look at this step 3, we're on this one. You can see these little dashes that we're talking about. They're like just little leaves. Might be able to see it easier in here. And these are layered as well. This is the first layer, and let me show you what I did. All I did was a little tap of the brush and I turned it. Do you see it? You're not drawing a line. You're not drawing a line where the actual vein or the stem is. We're just kind of pretending that it's there. And then you're just going to tap down to the base. And you can overlap. I mean, you don't really see too many leaves that are perfectly placed. I mean, I don't. Maybe your gardens do look perfect. I don't know. Mine does not. But I'm not the biggest green thumb. I just can keep certain things alive. But most of them are very organic. They do what they want. I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to, so anything that you might not like at this point, like maybe you did have a little mistake, go ahead and cover it up. I'm just saying, and just kind of, you're going off the same direction as those other leaves are going. This is the way it's going. And I'm just kind of, just pretend there's a vein there or a stem, and then just go side by side off the page. And I'm using the brush horizontally. Do you see that? I'm laying the brush on like that, and it instantly makes a leaf shape. I'm not doing it head on. And if you are doing it, that's fine. And it's just going to be a little bit more of a dot. But do you all see that? So I'm laying it on sideways, horizontal, and you just pressing it on there. It's a dab. I don't know. I might do the dab for you later, but not right now. But this is the actual leaf dab. Let's say. And so down here, yeah, my 4-year-old, that's his thing. He does the dab, so that's probably why it's on my mind. But it is just a little dab, and you're going off the page, off the canvas. Grab some more paint, and push a little bit on the, do you see all I'm doing is twisting my wrist? So I'm just turning it different ways. It's not perfect. And then you can get a little lighter to make a smaller leaf. It's just light touch. Heavier touch for a big leaf, a light tap for a small leaf. Easy, right? You guys got this. I'm sure of it. And we still have more layers to go, so you still have a chance to fill in anything you don't really care for. Okay, I will give you 1 minute to catch up to right here. I'll give you a second because we are going to rinse our brushes out and do a little bit of a blue leaf in there. Now we want to rinse out our brush, clean it up real good, and then squeeze it out again with your napkin, okay? So you got a quick minute. Hopefully you had enough time to do that, but again, this is just a matter, we're just gonna basically do it again with different colors. So you've got the technique down, hopefully, and this next layer will be your final layer, so do your best now if you want. This is where it's gonna count. Okay, let's see. This blue and red mixture, and this will actually give you a pretty dark color. It should be a dark violet. Now, if your blue is a little lighter than mine, it might not be as dark, and if your red's different, it might not be as dark. It's basically as dark a color as you can get. You see that? It's still a violet, but it's the darkest that we can. So this is going to give us some contrast in our picture. All right, so that's what we're doing now. So you got that color. And make a pretty good amount because we're going to add some of these darker leaves. And I think this violet would look nice on the blue background. I definitely did it. It could be on a yellow background. It will look nice. I don't know how many different colors you have out there. A white for sure, gray. It's a pretty neutral color, so continue on with these colors. To put it in right in between these, if you're like me right here, I'm just gonna do the same thing. It's a light touch and then it gets fat at the bottom. See how I did that? And it goes right over top your other leaves that you've done. It goes over top these other little ones that we just did. It goes right on top. I'm making it a big fat leaf, like right there. And you can even I'll even switch it up for you. So it's a little bit of a wider leaf. Do you see that? The more difference, the different little changes that you make is just gonna give it more interest to your painting, that's all. Okay, so I'm going to put a nice big one right here, and to do the big one, I'm just going like an almond shape. Can you see that? And the reason my edges are so nice and sharp and they're not dragging is because I have a lot of paint on that brush. Okay, so that makes a difference. Get a lot of paint on your brush and lift up your painting so that you can go right off the canvas nicely. Now that just gives this whole painting a little more life because you're giving contrast to it. You see how it's just starting to come to life. All right, fill your brush, get another big paint swab, and we're gonna go right down here. And I'm gonna cover up what I have. There you go. And I think my original one, I went up a little bit. That's fine if you did that. I just did it a different shape, that's okay. It's okay. And I added a little bit up here. And I'm gonna bring it all the way around just to tie it together. Let's see, I think I went all the way up here. Whoop. Okay, I think that's pretty good for the violet, the darkest color. And while this is on your brush, we're also gonna do a little bit inside your centers now. We're gonna end up just doing little dots. Do you see how I just did that? Just a little of that color in there to define it. See, this violet was actually really dark anyway. I think I did a little lighter on the original, but that's okay. It's okay, it's okay. So stick those little dots in there. Do you see what I did? I don't want you to miss it. I just added this dark color, a few dots inside your center. It just will make it look like it's concave. I think it's concave, right? It's going in there. Just to give a little something. And we'll add the other colors in there too as we go to finish this off, just to tie it all together. This next step is a blue leaf, and I did not do it on the blue background, just thinking blue on blue wasn't the best idea. So you can leave that step out, or you can do it. I honestly think that it probably would be okay because this color is not straight blue. But if you dip into your straight blue that you have, this is what we're gonna do. If you see these blue leaves here, that's what we're doing. If you don't like the idea of a blue leaf, then don't do it. It's okay. You can skip this step completely. It's not gonna make a huge difference. But since it's on this picture, it's still just a straight blue. I didn't rinse my brush out, and if you did, that's fine. I didn't rinse my brush out. I just went straight into my blue and picked up a lot of this blue on my brush. And I'm gonna add just a couple of strokes of blue right there. A leaf of blue. It's pretty bright and pretty bold, but that's what I did on this original. If you don't wanna do the blue leaves, you don't have to. I'm telling you now. And then I just did the same thing. I went around and added some right on top of the other ones. Let's see, I went down here. And then I even added some white to this blue and made a lighter blue. Again, it's just to give it some dimension, just a little variation. One here. Now this is pretty thick. I'm really just daubing this paint right on. All right. And then I just add a little bit of that blue in that center again. Every color from this point on, I just dabbed in the center just to tie it all together. White into that blue mixture. Right here. I know my plate's everywhere. So it's just a paler blue, and I added a few strokes of this paler blue just to give it a little more whatever, more oomph. And you don't have to do this if you don't want to. So if you're behind or whatnot now, that's okay. You can skip it or you can go ahead and do it. I'm just gonna add a few of these colors in there. And that lighter blue goes into the center a little bit. There, focused. Oh, getting it into my finger. Does that help to see? It looks a little crazy still. We got to do our top layer. It's still looking a little crazy. This time, we are going to make a very light pink for the top of this flower. Almost white. It's a very pale pink. So you're going to just need a little red and mostly white. So if you have those colors on your plate and you have a clean spot, this section here is all nice and dry, my background color. So I'm gonna mix right on top of that orangey color to make a pink. You can do that if you want, or get an extra plate. Wash out your brush with that blue. We don't want any of the blue on our brush, so get it a good scrub. Since you're at home, and if you need to get fresh water, you can, but really it's not necessary. You can keep it can be dirty, as long as you're squeezing out that water, it's fine. Use most of this white that I've got on my plate, okay? And I'm gonna slowly add the red to it, because red is very powerful. Look at just a little of that red will make your white pink. So make a nice pile of pale pink. And that's just a tiny bit of red. I want you to focus on covering up any white spots that you might have, the canvas. Try to cover that up and shape your flower. You also are going to go outside of where this is and overlap this one, because we'll overlap it again with the smaller one. And so see where these leaves are kind of just stuck there? They're blunt right there. We're going to go over it a little bit with this light pink. And now these leaves are pretty wet, so just be careful around that area. Just get a little extra of that pink paint and cover it up. So we'll do it together, and then don't be scared, just go for it. I'm making these big strokes around, and I'm gonna stagger. Just the biggest thing is to stagger and cover up the white spots. Any white canvas showing. You can use as little or as much as you want. Now just keep throwing it on there. If you like that darker violet coming through, show more of it or cover it up a little bit. See how you like it. You can always add more to it. Can't really take it off at this point. So I'm just working around. I don't need to hold that anymore. Let's see. I'm making more paint as I go, but these outer ones you can get into, I mean, these are from pretty long strokes. Do you see that? Like, they're pretty long. Like, the center ones are smaller, and you're just kind of shaping the center a little bit, overlapping a little bit. I want you to cover up any of those white spots. And that, even if some are peeking through, it's not the worst thing in the world that could happen, but this is your chance to cover it up. And then you can go back over some of these spots if it looks too blocky. Now, here's what I'm talking about. When you're getting close to this edge here, these are wet, but I want you to kind of go over some of those spots so that they look like they're behind the flower and not coming out of the flower. You see how that looks? If you have enough paint on your brush, you should be able to cover up those, like especially right here. Let's cover this up a little bit. And we still have some more layers to come, so. All right, and I'm gonna go right over this other one right here. And now I'm just trying to see if it looks like a circle by standing on the edge here. It's okay to just throw a couple petals sticking out. And mine's not completely. You see that? It should now be a big pink flower. And you can let the paint run off a little bit and get a little choppy, or you can get more paint. Just keep working it until you like it. Oh, and pick up straight white, and this is the highlight. This is going, we're kind of doing step 5 and 6 together. Since it's easy, it's right on our paper or our brush. Just hit it with some white spots. Do you see that? I'm kind of hitting it with some highlights in random spots. just to show that there's some highlight on there. Just it gives a little bit more dimension. Cover up any more things that you think that might need a little help. Kind of like a florist here. You really can't go wrong with this step. All right, so this should have lots of little shades of color, and it's kind of hard to see since it's so bright. Let me see if I can't bring it closer for you and get a glimpse of what it looks like. Do you see the different colors? There's a pinks and whites in there. Let me show you out my sister's.
I keep touching it.
Yeah, she's got the blue. Does yours look like that? You have to have faith. You've got to see beyond. Usually every painting looks quite ugly before it looks good. That's just a thing. You got to get over that. I'm going to mix up this light pale yellow to go on top of this dark violet. Now, if you really like this dark violet, you can lighten this up even more and make it a blue flower, a pale blue flower. If you don't like the pale yellow, this is really your painting. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but let's mix yellow. So here we go. Well, all we're going to do is you're going to get more white on your plate because it's very pale, so you're going to use more white than the yellow this time. Okay, so look it. Got some dry spots, so I'm going to put it on there. Anywhere you can find a spot. Make a nice pale yellow. Mostly white and a tiny bit of yellow. Try not to get too much yellow because you're going to just keep adding white. Try to go slowly add the yellow in. Does that make sense? So make a nice pile of a pale yellow. And get it to where you think you like it. Remember, it's going to dry darker. And then we're going to also do the same thing. We're adding a little bit of strokes of pure white on the top for like a little bit of a highlight. So we want a little bit of a difference. So you could even do a little bit of the darker yellow and then a little bit of the pale yellow. You can go for it. Okay, so this one, we are going to overlap the pink a little bit. But we're going to start in the center, and remember we're going to cover up these white spots the best we can. This is how we're going to fill in. And I'm going to start with some random strokes around the center. Okay, and keep going. I see some white there. I'm going to fill it in. Fill in there. That dark violet underneath the yellow I think looks real nice. It gives it some contrast, and you just keep working it until... Evaluate how big you want to go. You want to cover up some of these leaves, the bases of these leaves. Just keep working, and I'm going to go right over this pink flower. I'm going to do that this time. I'm pretty sure the pink was on top for the original, but that's okay. And you could come back with pink if you want. Okay, so the top here, all these leaves are sitting. I'm going to go right over top. And I'm trying to see, correct your shape so it looks somewhat like a circle. I think this needs to come out here. It's kind of hard to see this way. Let's see what it looks like this way. Okay, it's a decent shape. And then I'm going to fill in some of this, not so dark. Make it more of a yellow flower than the purple or the violet. So just keep working it. And at this point, you can add some of those pure white. So just dip your brush. You don't have to wash it out. Dip it right at the straight white. And then just add a few strokes on the top of that. And give it a little bit of a highlight. Just a little difference. These are little extra steps just to give it more interest. All right. I think that looks good. You can add little dots here and there if you want to make the shape a little bit better. Wow, I'm just looking at the original. This flower is quite larger than this one. That's okay though. I covered up a lot, but that's all right. It's still in the canvas. It works. Okay. Now at this point, I think I added a little bit of this yellow in the center here. So just add a few dots. Boop, boop. Just a few dots in there. You can add a few dots on the top if you want. Same brush, we're not gonna wash it out. We're gonna make a very pale green and add a few more little details on top of these big leaves, just an extra layer. But be careful at the edges of these flowers because now these bigger leaves should be dry. That's why we waited, all right? And now we're just gonna add a few of these leaves on the outside just to tie it all together. And then a few little white dots for the highlights and then we're done. Now, without washing your brush off, this is still a pale yellow. And if you didn't do pale yellow, let's do a little bit of a white and yellow mix. And then we're gonna add just a tiny dot of the blue, whatever blue you have, and mix that in. And you're gonna see a pale green form. Start dabbing, doot, 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 covering up some of these leaves. Yes, I know I just covered up what I did. And I'm okay with that. That's what it's about, we're layering. And you know what, I'm gonna go even lighter because I see my color is very similar to this back color. I'm gonna try to make it lighter than what the color you already had. Because it's gonna dry darker, remember. So try to add a little more yellow to it, make it a little different color, and a little bit more white if you need to. Mine was very similar, so I'm gonna add. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. You're just trying to make a different shade than the one behind it. It's a lighter shade or a little bit yellowy, limey-er shade. That's the word. And then I'm just gonna start sticking some of these colors in to follow. Don't paint over your flower. Try not to paint over your flower. You're just kind of filling in. And the reason why we did that, we didn't do this before we did the final step of our big flowers because they were really wet. Do you remember how wet the blue leaves were? So we're trying not to blend those. Now they're dry. And so now I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to do a little bit more, just tapping. And mine is still not very different. So hopefully your shade is different. When in doubt, add a little more white because that will definitely lighten it up. Look at, boom, it really lights it up. And try to make different variation of the sizes of your dabs. To look at the different, where am I at? See how this is smaller and this is larger? Does that help? Different size dabs here, okay? What else would you call this? A stub? What would, it's a dab. 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 I don't know. That's the most creative part about this whole activity is what else can you call that? The dots. All right, hopefully this is helping your picture come together and coming alive a little bit with the brighter colors because the background's a little darker, the lighter colors should be coming on top of those colors to make them pop, make them kind of look like they're coming forward. Hopefully that's what's happening, and that is the whole point of doing this. So if it's not happening, you know what?
Lighter green.
Keep adding white. Just keep mixing. Don't stop. Don't give up. Don't give up. That's the big thing. And then I'm just going to drag these colors up. You're a florist at this point. Just add, look at your picture, say, oh, something looks boring here. I need a little dab there, so just do that. Okay, I'm gonna go back with this lighter color up here because I realized I didn't really have that good color, but this one's better. So just add a few more dabs on the top. You see that? Because I even actually take this color and do a few dabs. A few dabs in the center. The final thing for these leaves is once you've got to this point, we're just going to do straight white. Almost straight white. I mean, I didn't wash my brush, so it's really pretty white. And then just do a very few. You can really overkill the highlight. The highlight is less is more for sure. So don't add white everywhere or it's just gonna, it won't give the same effect. So just the tiniest little specks of white here and there will just make things stand out more. I hope that makes sense and I hope you can see it because my light's bright. I'll hold it up just a second so you can see again what I'm talking about. Just a little here and there. And I'll even add one more dot on the center. Let me see. I can pull this up closer to you that you can see all the different facets of color. Do you see how the white makes it pop? I think you can see that pretty good without, I mean, this light's pretty bright. And I think I even went in with just straight red and straight blue in the center of those flowers. So if you want to do that, because I kind of see that the center is kind of getting lost with a lot of the lighter colors. So just go back with the darkest color you have and just add a little more dark in there. Then that will tie it all together. Does that make sense? I just noticed that. So if you're done with all your highlights and you're like me and it could use a little dark there, I'm just going to go back in. I'm going to wash my brush off because I have a lot of white. And then, I mean, just take your darkest color again and just add a few dots back in there. So I'll show you mine if you want to do it. See how that just, doesn't that just sink that center in? Can you guys see that? Dark colors recede, light colors come forward. So all the colors that we use tonight, you can just push a little bit of that inside those centers. And that is really a matter of preference. So at this point, I don't know what yours looks like, if you need to add it or not. You might have a lot of dark there. Mine did not. And I mean, I'm just looking at this painting again. I'm keep referring to this. And you can do this if you want. You don't have to, but I actually just did straight red in there too. A couple of dots of straight red. So every color on your plate should be in these centers just to tie it all together. Does that make sense? Can you see it? I'm getting paint all over the place, just a little bit. Don't overkill it with the red either. This really is a matter of preference and what you did. I'm going back into my lighter violet just to give it a little touch. You don't have to do this. I don't know what yours looks like. I'm just trying to show you what it could look like, I guess. Are you doing it?
I haven't done the beginning yet, or the...
Are you adding some of the white in there?
I'm doing the white, I'm on the white dots.
Okay, yeah, I'll stop talking about my other things. Let you catch up. I think they're all a little different, but it still works. You guys can paint the rest of the night. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, you guys, I know are gonna keep touching this for a while, and I don't have to clean up, so you can do that. You can clean up tonight, anytime you want. And you definitely want to sign this painting, and you definitely want to take a picture of it because I want to see it. I really do. I love seeing it. I hope you enjoyed it and took a little time to relax tonight. No stress, right? But thank you. Bye, guys.